I listened to the rain in Tasaka's room. Today, under the pretense of a MageCraft lesson, she performed yet another physical examination like yesterday. She gave me more medicine, then checked all my magic circuits. It's not that I mind doing this, I just don't like doing this. I just don't like the feeling that I'm not doing anything productive. Okay. See, it's not that I dislike what we're doing, it's just the opportunity cost, Tasaka. The opportunity cost, think of it! She tells me not to move, so she can see what happens to me. But that doesn't mean I can't talk. And literally talking does require some degree of motion of the body, but hopefully it's not relevant to what is actually being observed. Tasaka, do you have a minute? I call out to her as I sit in my meditative pose. What is it? It's about Saber. I really don't know how to explain it, but I realize I haven't thought this through at all. Oh, come on, sure, you gotta know, whenever you talk to a girl, the first step is always, you need to run through what you're about to say like 5 times in your own head to make sure it all makes sense, and then you say it, alright? You can't just be winging this. You gotta go in and attack with a plan, a strategy. It's not even a question of, what can I do for Saber? I haven't even thought about what I want to do with her. Well, I was just wondering what she wants to do. She's never really told us anything she wants to do for herself, so... You don't know what Saber's thinking? And I'm glad that chatted. I don't even know what they're talking about anymore. Homunculi, futa... I would have fun with that. I don't know what you mean, though. No, it's not that. I just don't know why she's so selfless. Yeah, I just don't know what to do about that. How do I handle such, recklessly selfless people? They're so selfish being so selfless and making it hard to do stuff for them. I, being Shiro, would have I've got no idea what to do with that information. What a jerk, being so selfless like that. Well, you're right. The only thing she's done voluntarily is protect you. It may be a natural thing for a servant to do, but I can't blame you for thinking that since she's so dedicated to doing it. But that doesn't mean she's selfless. Saber's protecting you because protecting you helps fulfill her goal. Oh. You're saying it's all transactional, are you? I completely forgot a reason for even becoming a servant. You're right. Saber wants to get the Holy Grail, so it's not like she doesn't have any goals. And that Holy Grail will grant its possessor's wish. That means Saber at least has a wish she wants granted. I don't know what it is, but she wants it enough to even become a servant. So it must have some hope of saving her. Like, for example, if she's here in this time period, and the power of the Holy Grail can help her so she can stay here and live a second life, maybe? Shiro, I think you're just wish casting at this point. I mean, who knows? Maybe that is what she wants. I don't know. I'm not Saber, but also, like, very clearly that's what you want. This is like when you're complaining about, like, oh, why don't we have, a better, I don't know. Everyone knows the thing where it's like, I give you a gift, but it's really for myself, right? You give someone a gift, and it's like, oh, surprise, surprise, it's the board game I've always wanted, but it's a gift for you. Have fun with that. Oh, what? Man, who would have thought? I guess you're going to need someone to play that with at some point. Wow. Well, yeah, I guess that's just how it goes. That's what it's like, giving someone a board game as a gift. And she would have to wish for something that big just to make up for all the suffering and tragedy she endured. Oh, then it's actually pretty simple. Huh? You're energetic all of a sudden. It's creeping me out. Were you talking about something fun for you to get all excited like this? Yeah, I am getting excited. Yeah! You wouldn't be fighting so hard unless it was for something real big. After all, Saber needs to fight for her own wish. I nod to myself. Tasaka, on the other hand, seems utterly bewildered. Emiya, sorry to rain on your parade, but you're jumping to the wrong conclusion. Saber's not fighting for her own sake. What do you mean? You're saying even her wish for the Holy Grail is selfless? I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. You understand that, right? Saber isn't like that. She doesn't want the Holy Grail for herself. What's your reasoning? I can't even ask that. I know. She met her final moments alone because she didn't have any desire for herself. So Saber wouldn't seek for her own salvation now. But still, I hoped otherwise, even for a brief moment, so I pushed my distorted desire on her. Our conversation trails off, just as I think this awkward silence is going to continue forever. I told you a boring story, but Archer actually said something similar to what you said. Huh? Archer? You mean your Archer? Yep, I once asked him what his wish was. And you know what he said? I wouldn't have the slightest idea. I never knew a single thing about him. Archer once declared that we were bound to be enemies anyway, so he made no effort to communicate with Saber, or me. And yet, he may have been cynical, but he didn't seem the sort to have stupid objectives in mind. Get this, you're going to laugh. When I asked him what his wish was, he said, how about a world peace forever? It was so ridiculous, I couldn't help laughing. But then he got all weird and said, I knew you'd laugh. Well, you know, there's no meaning in gaining salvation from others. Fine, let's say this was a joke and leave it at that. It made me think that's probably why a guy like him became a heroic spirit, get ordered around by a girl like me. World peace. I guess my theory about maybe he was like Genghis Khan or something probably doesn't hold out then. I never had a strong theory about who he was, but I was thinking maybe Genghis Khan, yeah, maybe Robin Hood. I mean, obviously that's a prominent archer in history. You never know, though. I guess you could know. But you probably know if you read another out, honestly. I see. He didn't look it, but he was a great, proud knight in his own right. But don't get the wrong idea. If the Holy Grail really grants any wish, permanent world peace would be the worst one. Look, I know Genghis Khan was like a ridiculous thing. I was just kind of thinking like, okay, who's a prominent like archer that's really skilled and legendary? And we're like, okay, you got Robin Hood, you got Genghis Khan. I'm sure you got some others, or those were the two that came to mind immediately. It just means nothing happens. If there's no conflict in the world, that'd be as good as death. If nothing happens, the only thing is to rot away from stagnation. Huh. Did you tell Archer that too? I did, and he said, that's what the wise would think. I agree, but I'm still going to follow this dream, even if it's a fool's dream. Then I pressed him about whether he had any other wishes, and he said, I do, but it's not a wish that I should be granted by the Holy Grail, so I'll let you make your own wish in my place. Pretty pretentious, right? But he was quite the womanizer while he was alive. Huh. I really didn't get that impression from him. But what's your point here, Tasaka? Hey, point of evidence, Genghis Khan, notorious womanizer, in a certain sense. Nothing in particular. I'm just saying that there are different kinds of servants. Is that so? Well, I guess it was good for me to know, so it was at least kinda helpful. Then let's move on to the next topic. Well, actually, this is mostly at Saber anyway. Huh. I do remember you saying you wanted to talk to me about something this morning. Yes, it's nothing big, but I was curious. Might be a bit late in the game for this, but do you know the legend of King Arthur? I mean, I'm not, like, an expert, but yeah, everyone knows at least the general beats. The legend of King Arthur. I've been reminded of it more than enough in the past few days. I know as much as the next person, although I didn't know King Arthur was a girl. Right, her sex doesn't matter though. King Arthur being a girl wouldn't change the legend. As long as King Arthur managed to hide that fact from everyone, he should be treated as a man anyway. Fortunately, King Arthur had a mage called Merlin in his service. Merlin was truly devilish, half incubus actually, so it would have been easy for him to hide King Arthur's sex, or prepare a child who shouldn't have been born. Half incubus. Huh. Yeah, I bet. So my concern is the discrepancy between the legend and the saber we have in front of us. Emiya, do you know what exactly Excalibur was? Excalibur was what King Arthur's legendary blade, like given to him by the Lady of the Lake. It was, and I know it was. I guess it's probably particularly powerful. I don't know in what respect, according to legend. Why ask this now? Excalibur is a symbol of King Arthur. It's the sword fairies gave her, famed for being able to cut through anything without ever dulling. Yeah, that's what I figured you'd say. Tosaka looks oddly triumphant. Huh, was that a weird thing to say? Yes, you and King Arthur made the same mistake. If Merlin was around, he would probably mock you for being a fool. Why is that? The sword in the stone wasn't Excalibur. That sword broke. He later received another sword from a fairy in the lake, and that was Excalibur, right? Yep, when King Arthur received Excalibur, Merlin asked, "My king, which do you prefer? The sword or the sheath?" King Arthur answered the sword without a moment's hesitation, but Merlin scolded the king for that. Do not mistake their word. The sword may cut your enemies, but the sheath protects you. So long as you possess that sheath, you will spill not a single drop of blood, nor sustain any injury. The sheath rather than the blade is what you should value. Okay. You okay, Tosaka? Tosaka skillfully acts out the parts of King Arthur and Merlin. Look at you, Tosaka. You're getting into the parts. So, what's your point? Oh, come on. Do you still not get it? It means King Arthur is immortal. Excalibur is an invincible noble phantasm in both offense and defense. Okay, so yeah, we've gotten some, like, that's been stated before in the flashbacks in particular. I guess what I don't get, though, is, like, if King Arthur's immortal, how is King Arthur dead to become a servant? That doesn't quite add up. Perhaps the sheath was lost at one point, maybe? I guess if that was the source of the immortality? Which is why Saber should be able to heal immediately. Tosaka, Saber's wounds do heal. Yes, that's true, but Saber's self-healing abilities come from using a great amount of magical energy. And that sounds like it's separate from the sheath of the legendary Excalibur. Saying she's a fraud? I see. If you say so, it's probably true. Then here's my question. You say that King Arthur is immortal. So then why and how did King Arthur die? Legend ends with King Arthur's death, right? Huh? Tosaka's mouth drops open. After freezing up for a few seconds, she grinds her teeth and looks away. Oh, right. Excalibur's sheath was stolen. Ah, rookie mistake right there. I'd forgotten, but according to legend, King Arthur's fate was sealed the moment the king lost the all-important sheath. Yes, the sheath. So, were you convinced now, Tosaka? Yeah, go ahead and make fun of me if you want. She doesn't mean that. I can tell she's ready to kick me in the head the moment I left her. But I mean, still, it'd be kind of fun, though. It's all good, as long as you understand now. But why did that bother you so much? It shouldn't matter to you whether Saber gets hurt or not. Shut up! I might have just gotten a little arrogant, thinking she would be invincible if that were the case. I make mistakes sometimes too, you know. Huh. Alright, I'll note that admission down for use later. This is a tough one. Would there be any benefit in me pointing out that she makes mistakes a lot, not just sometimes? Alright, it looks like Shiro made the right choice there. By the time the sun sets, the rain stopped completely. Based on our conversation during breakfast, we're heading to town to look for the other master. But I should check something beforehand. I should check Saber's intentions. What is her purpose in fighting? I shouldn't just ask her straight out. I'll need to be casual about it. Casual, super casual Saber. I hype myself up a bit, then push to my feet. The living room seems like a good starting place. Oh, interesting point there, Adam. Guess that makes sense that you'd summon them kind of during their prime. Anyways, I'm going to leverage the peaceful pre-dinner mood to try to get through Saber's stubborn nature. What if, hypothetically, what would we do if we won the Holy Grail War? So much for casual. Well, I mean, when you start with what if hypothetically, I mean, that's code word for this is a Actually, that's code word for this is definitely not a hypothetical casual conversation. Especially in fiction. I thought about it a lot and couldn't come up with anything smooth. So, blunt it is. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank too, Shiro. Huh? I'm not even asking the right person! What the heck? Shiro, you fool! Oh, okay. She's here. Huh? Hmm? All three of them offer more or less the same response, though with slightly different expressions. Like I said, after we win, I want to talk about what to do once we obtain the Holy Grail. Yeah, we got that, thanks. Where did this come from? Saber and Ilia don't nod, but they do seem to share an opinion on the subject. I guess this was kind of weird to bring up out of nowhere. But I have to play dumb for now. Yeah, well, I'm just asking. There are only 3 servants left, so it's not such an unrealistic thought. So, you know, that is kind of insight. Well, you might be right. I guess even Shiro could be thinking about that by now. He did join the war, so I guess it's no surprise you've got your mind on the reward now that you've been risking your life on this. Yeah, I would think that. I'm glad Tosaka likes to focus on the reason for things. Tosaka will allow for the possibility of anything that seems logical, which is really one of her better qualities. This is just something I brought up to discuss, though. So, what about you, Tosaka? What would you do if you got the Holy Grail? I try to be as natural as possible with this. Let's see, I really only ever thought about winning. Something I want to wish for from the Holy Grail. What? So then we get this straight. You're in this for bragging rights? You're in the Grail War for bragging rights, Tosaka. What the? Okay. I mean, to each their own? I'd take the Holy Grail, but I've never thought about what I'd do with it. So she's fighting because she doesn't want to lose. I figured that was the case, but didn't know for sure until she said it herself. I don't believe this. You seem like the one person who would have had it all worked out, but you actually thought about it the least. Say what you want. What about you then, Elizabeth? I don't know. I was just told not to give up the Holy Grail to anyone because it's mine. Okay, so Tosaka wants it to win. Elizabeth just wants it to have the Grail. Great, so okay. It's mine to begin with, so I obviously don't care. Is she asserting that her family has like a historic claim on the Grail? Is that so? So you're saying you enjoy the Grail, the Holy Grail more than the Holy Grail? I guess if you're one to talk. Of course, I only came here to win. I don't care what it gets used for. They're two peas in a pod. The two stare at each other in silence. They seem to be coming to some sort of understanding. Okay, well. Saber. Surely we have at least one sensible person here who's actually in this war for like a, reason that has like practical effects and benefits. Saber doesn't say anything. She probably doesn't intend to join the conversation. No matter how much she resists, I still have to ask. I have a good idea of your goals. I tried to turn as naturally as possible. So, what about you, Saber? She's been quiet this whole time. Saber doesn't reply, sensing that something's amiss. For a second, that sounded to me like the skeleton sound effect from Minecraft, and I was really confused for a moment. But it's just the ticking clock. Anyways, sensing that something's amiss, Tosaka and Delia stop and turn towards Saber. Like, I was ready to get just, like, skewered in the back with an arrow or something. The silence stretches out for maybe a minute. I need not remind any of you this, but it is my duty to obtain the Holy Grail. I knew little of the Holy Grail's potential. As long as it is the Holy Grail, I must— Oh no! Right, she is King Arthur. That obtaining girl is just like her thing. She just wants it too. Ah! And if it is possible, I will have my wish granted. How did I not see that one coming? There it is. Saber just said she has a wish of her own. Haha! I see, so what is your wish? I tried to calm my racing heart and keep composed as I ask. Saber doesn't answer. Fine, that's fine. If she can't answer, chances are it's because her wish is a selfish one. Knowing Saber, she may hesitate to reveal her wish to anyone if she's wishing for something selfish. And I think I'd rather she keep quiet than make something up. I can feel myself trying to back away from the question I raised. Is it really that complicated? Grandfather said the servants want to come back to life in this world. They have the Holy Grail for a second chance at life. Isn't that the case with you, Saber? Elizabeth coming in clutch. Thank you, thank you. Saber jerks her head up. If that's what she wanted, there would be no problem. Which means... No, I have no interest in a second life. That's funny, yeah. My only goal is to obtain the Holy Grail. The price I paid to have a chance at obtaining the Holy Grail was becoming a servant. Wait a minute. Hold on, I'm probably reading too much into this, but... Did you lose the sheath? Because, you know, obviously Arthurian legend, one of, like, the big arcs of that is, like, trying to obtain the Holy Grail. Did you find out that the only way to obtain the Grail was to become a servant, so you lost the sheath so you could die and have the chance to become a servant just in order to obtain the Grail? Is that what's going on here? That is so tragic, if so. I figured that much. No, you did not, Shiro. No one saw this one coming. Come on. Someone who took an oath and drew the sacred sword wouldn't seek a second life. Hold on, you became a servant just to obtain the Holy Grail? You formed a contract when you became a heroic spirit? Yes, I asked to seek the Holy Grail in exchange for becoming a servant. What? Are you saying you weren't summoned as a servant to help a master get the Holy Grail, but you chose to become a servant so you can get the Grail yourself? Tosaka stares at Saber. She tilts her head, confused. So Saber wasn't summoned because she's a heroic spirit, but because she just volunteered to join the war. Oh, that explains too why she's been in like 2 consecutive ones, right? If she just... You're right, if she's like... I guess by implication the other servants like don't necessarily like want to be here, they kind of hear... I forget how exactly that works, but if she's like the most driven of like, I want the Grail specifically, then it would make sense she keeps coming back in different wars. But as long as she's a servant, she's supposed to be a reputable heroic spirit. That means she can't affect the world herself, so Saber must have gone around the rules for servants, which she obviously hasn't. Hold on a minute. I need to organize my thoughts. No, you need do nothing of the sort. You are correct, Rin. I am different than the other servants. I have yet to become a complete servant. Not a complete servant? What does that mean? Or what does that mean? Well, first of all, what does it mean to become a servant? Saber just said she agreed to become a servant as the price she had to pay to obtain the Holy Grail. Which means... Oh, hold on a minute. Are servants forced to fight as the price to get what they want? No, that is incorrect. Servants are special females that exist only for the Holy Grail War. Servant is created through special summoning MageCraft, which employs the characteristics of the heroic spirits. They are already heroic spirits, so there are no rules which say that servants must work because they are given something. Right, the servant system uses heroic spirits, which are guardian incarnations. It's working with something that already exists, so neither servants nor masters have to pay a price to use the system. But I have heard that before becoming a servant, they have to pay a price to become a heroic spirit in the first place. Heroic spirits are guardians for humans. Even after their deaths, they work to protect humanity and prevent the destruction of the human world. In order to become a guardian, the person must, while they are still active as a hero in their lifetime, make a deal of some kind. That's the contract to become a heroic spirit, a ritual to give themselves to the world after they die. Yeah, I was assumed it was something that just kind of automatically happened if you met certain criteria. Huh, Interesting. The beneficiaries of this exchange become heroes, and after they've done what they wanted to do as a hero and eventually die, they repay that debt by becoming heroic spirits. Okay, I think I get it. Basically, in order to become a hero in life, they go into a sort of debt, which they then repay as a heroic spirit after death. Masters like us use servants because we swoop in and make use of that debt heroic spirits are trying to repay. Huh. So you're saying humans become heroes by making some sort of trade, and in return they get used and summoned as heroic spirit familiars after their death. Which means the saber... which means the deal Saber made to become a heroic spirit was for the Holy Grail. Since Saber obtained the Holy Grail in her lifetime, the price she has to pay is serving as a heroic spirit, a sort of guardian, even after death? That doesn't sound right. Saber said that her goal was the Holy Grail, but she already obtained it. Since she became a hero in exchange for the Holy Grail. That is not correct, Shiro. I have not obtained the Holy Grail. Altria, King Arthur's wish was to obtain the Holy Grail during their lifetime. I had to obtain the Holy Grail before I died. So, is she not a heroic spirit then? That's why I agreed to become a guardian after I died, if I could first obtain the Holy Grail. As been explained, humans form contracts with the world to become heroes. In exchange, they receive powers beyond human ability, which they pay for by serving after death. But I did not require the world's help to become a hero. Fortunately, King Arthur required no such aid. She didn't need any help to become a hero. So Saber became a hero on her own? Yet you are here as a heroic spirit. Does that mean you asked for something else from the world after King Arthur became a hero? Yes, I required the Holy Grail in my final moments. A wish that must be granted presented itself, so I needed the Holy Grail. That is why I formed a heroic spirit contract. I have to wield my sword as a heroic spirit after my death, so long as I could lay hands upon the Holy Grail. I see. In her last moments, she wished for the Holy Grail's miracle. Now I understand her feelings. The blood-soaked hill. Swords standing as gravestones, the bodies of so many knights. A lone king whose reign ended in betrayal. She didn't deserve the end she met. Even if she hadn't had a wish of her own before, she must have thought, I can't die here. This isn't the end I want. And that's why there's no shame in using the power of the Holy Grail to prolong her life. I see, so you seized the means of obtaining the Holy Grail by selling yourself after death. But Saber, your condition was obtaining the Holy Grail while you were still alive, right? Then... Yes, I could not complete my search for the Holy Grail while I was alive. I, King Arthur, could not obtain the Holy Grail even at the very end. But that would nullify my contract. For the world to make a servant of me, it must provide a Holy Grail while King Arthur yet lives. And that is why King Arthur will not die until she obtains the Holy Grail. That is to say, she can't die. That means you're... Yes, time for King Arthur, me, stopped at the moment of my death. I should have died a long time ago, but that does not fulfill the contract. King Arthur was summoned as a servant, right, at the moment of death, and she will die the moment she obtains the Holy Grail. Wait, no. So it's not that time stopped, you're just stuck in time? Doesn't matter how many times you repeat your fight as a servant, because you obtained the Holy Grail and fulfilling your contract is predetermined. That is correct. I will one day obtain the Holy Grail, and my contract will be fulfilled. That is why I can be summoned as a heroic spirit in another age. The outcome of my arrangement has already been determined. This does not apply only to the Holy Grail in this town. Should there be a chance of obtaining the Holy Grail, I could be summoned to any battlefield. One day I will obtain the Holy Grail, and once my wish has been granted, time, stopped for me at the moment of death, will resume its flow. King Arthur will meet her end. In exchange for obtaining the Holy Grail, she will become a heroic spirit. It's not much practical change. So for you, it's like a dream just before dying, one you can't wake from. This Holy Grail War is just part of that dream. And the only way for you to wake is to get a Holy Grail? You believe that I could not enter spirit form because Shiro is inexperienced, but that is incorrect. I cannot enter spirit form because I am still alive. It may only be a technicality, but I am considered a living person. Just like during the last Holy Grail War. Saber's tone is apologetic. She probably feels bad for laying the blame for her not being able to enter spirit form on my ineptitude. I don't care about that. But there's something I need to ask. Saber, what do you mean you're not dead? I got that you won't die until you obtain the Holy Grail. And based on how you described it, you haven't been alive since the time of King Arthur. But then, who are you right now? You're not a clone of the real person or anything, right? That is correct. Heroic spirits when summoned are like copies of a person's original body, but I have yet to reach that state. Until I obtain the Holy Grail, I appear as I am at the moment of my death. As Rin mentioned, King Arthur is now stopped in the great river of time. From where I am stranded, I jump both forward and back along the river's flow, and after I attempt to obtain the Holy Grail, I return to where time stopped for me. I tried to diagram it all in my head. Okay, so we got the battle. Here, do we have the? Okay. Okay, so we got the battle. We got the past, the present, the future. Good, good. So we got the Battle of Calman, or Camlin. Sorry. We got Arthur there, who exists. Then Arthur dies, but Arthur doesn't actually die yet. Arthur actually goes and gets summoned, like several times. Okay, got you. Okay. I guess, based on how this drone has been described, it almost sounds like, too, she doesn't necessarily experience these linearly, like, well, I don't know, maybe she does. It's confusing. Like, I'm not sure if she necessarily experiences the Holy Grail Wars in the order they actually occur, or if she's, like, so detached from time that she's, like, popping in and she's like, oh, I'm in the 2030 Grail War now. Oh, see ya, now I'm in the 1475 Grail War. Oh, now I'm in the 2004 Grail War. Though she does definitely have distinct memories of the previous Grail War, which would kind of imply that it's experienced sequentially, I suppose. That could just be a coincidence, though. Who can say? Anyways, it's pretty simple once I visualize it. King Arthur is stopped in time at the moment before she dies. But that doesn't matter to the wider flow of time. It continues on all the way to the present. Okay, yeah. She jumps to whatever time she's needed, then returns to her own frozen moment in time after she completes her duty. If she manages to obtain the Grail in one of the times she visits, she will swept back into the proper flow of time and die, just as she does in the history we know. Okay, good to know, better. Good to know. Maybe that's how heroic spirits work? I guess technically she's already won then, in a certain sense, right? Because maybe, because she's died. in our timeline. Which means at some point in the future, she has gotten the Grail and traveled back. Time travel makes things so much more confusing. Okay, maybe that's how heroic spirits work. When they die, they're transferred back to a sort of nexus where the flow of time stops. And then when they're summoned, they're taken to that point in time, then disappear without ever returning. Okay. That's probably what is meant by heroic spirits being doubles. Kind of like a clone made from the original cells. The heroic spirit, which completely retains the abilities and memories they had while alive, appears in this world and gains more knowledge, but it's all useless. They have no means to return to their original body and instead just disappear. Wait, does that mean that the normal heroic spirits don't have memory of the previous Grail Wars they participated in, if they're all just copies of the original, right, and not copies of the copies, necessarily? Huh. Maybe? I don't know. And so no matter how many times or in how many different eras they're summoned, there will never be any inconsistencies in the heroic spirit's memories. From the moment the person becomes a heroic spirit, they will never change. Even if they obtain new knowledge, they will just disappear once their role is over. So in that sense, Saber is not a complete servant. After each time she's summoned, she eventually returns to her own time. Which actually kind of seems like it might be a bit of an advantage. Right? If the other servants don't retain memories from previous Grail Wars, but Saber gets to continually like build upon her previous experiences, like, okay, so the strategy we did last time didn't really work. Maybe we'll go for something else this time. It actually kind of, like, there was a thought experiment I saw post online the other day of, like, if you were in a time loop, like, say it's a 24-hour time loop, and the only way to escape the time loop, and in this time loop, say you're playing, like, a chess grandmaster, Magnus Carlsen, Garry Kasparov, something like that, and the only way to escape the time loop is to win the game of chess against the chess grandmaster, how many loops do you think you'd need? And, like, it would be a lot. That's for certain. It would be a lot. Yeah. Like, I think eventually I'd get it. Not because I'm necessarily good at chess, but you might be able to, like, brute force remember, like, okay, if I do pawn to this move, he responds to this move, and then I can, like, work backwards from there. I think eventually I'd get it, but it would probably take, like, maybe, like, decades of time. Of looped time. I see. Okay. Anyway, she goes back to that moment where she's about to die on that blood-soaked hill. Hold it. So then what? If you manage to get the Holy Grail this time, you'll return to your own time and use the Holy Grail there? But does that mean whatever she wishes for already happened, technically? Because, right, if we live in the timeline, because obviously we do not currently live in a timeline where there's just like some girl on a hill somewhere, frozen in non-death, right? King Arthur has died in our timeline, which means the events, which means the King Arthur that exists in the Middle Ages in our timeline already got the Grail at some point in the future, and therefore must have wished upon the Grail earlier in the timeline, because the stipulation is that she would get it before her death, which means it has to be used back in the time. And if that's the case, and we live in a time where King Arthur is not immortal, that means that the wish already happened? Right? That's altering the past. Time travel or intervening in a parallel world is magic. You can't do something like that. Says you. Before her death, does that even past? But the Holy Grail makes that possible. My contract dictates that I will become a servant if I can use the Holy Grail. I see. Even if using the Holy Grail causes the person, Altria, to disappear, that is simply the cost of me becoming a heroic spirit. Saber is so matter-of-fact about it. Doesn't sound right, though. Using the Holy Grail to grant a wish is fine. But why would that mean Altria has to disappear? Well, because she dies once she gets the Grail. But, yeah, so. What the hell? Altria's going to disappear by using the Holy Grail? That's messed up. Saber, you're not going to... I see the image of the girl dying on that hill, all alone. You're not going to use the Holy Grail to save yourself? Huh? What are you asking, Shiro? One desires to save my nation from ruin. I mean, I kind of feel like that may have already happened. I mean, there's this whole chapter of history called, like, the British Empire. Like, Britain did pretty well, with or without a Grail wish. Or maybe that is the Grail wish. Now, granted, I will say, go back in time, I do know that technically speaking, the King Arthur mythos is set in the pre-Anglo-Saxon British period, which would imply actually that for her nation to not fall to ruin, that actually kind of implies the repelling of the the Angles and Saxons in favor of the native Britons retaining the land, which actually that would be a massive butterfly effect, come to think of it. Yeah. Because, like, that's why English is a Germanic language, like Saxon, as in, like from Saxony, right? It was a migration of Germanic peoples to the island. Oh my goodness, if she actually gets that wish. I mean, that's like all of, like, modern history. Just, like, completely changed. That, I'm not sure we want to win now. I can feel my expression tensing up. I thought I knew Saber's wish. But now my head is spinning and I feel like throwing up. Why? And yet, I try to push air from my lungs and get that one word out. There's no reason I should not. Well, I'm assuming here that, like, if she's using, like, Grail to wish for, like, the survival of her nation, to save her nation from falling to ruin, I assume it's probably gonna be a little more long-lasting of an effect than, like, oh, you get an extra, like, decade of, like, good times. It's, like, I don't know. I feel like if I, like, obtained the Holy Grail and was like, I wish for the prosperity of the United States of America, and for it to not fall into ruin, like, I would assume in that wish, like, I'd be pretty miffed if then we got, like, one, like, super amazing president and then just the United States gets completely conquered by, like, Canada or something. I'd be pretty miffed if that was what happened. So I'm assuming the effects would be a little more long-lasting than that. Though maybe I'm assuming wrong. Maybe it's one of those sort of, like, monkey's paw sort of thing, where you gotta word it exactly right. It's like, oh, you don't want your nation to fall to ruin? Alright, fair enough. Nuclear apocalypse. There ain't gonna be no ruins left after that. It's all gonna be just completely destroyed and decimated. Not a single ruin standing. I could not protect my nation because I became a king to protect the nation, but I failed to fulfill that duty. And that is when I thought, perhaps the sword and the stone was wrong to have chosen me. That's ridiculous. Why did you think that? No, that is a doubt I always carried with me. Perhaps I was never fit to be a king. Perhaps there was another hero who would have been better choice. Even the moment I pulled the sword, there must have been a better king out there, one able to save the nation while I could not. And And so, if I could use the power of the Holy Grail to redo the selection of the king, then perhaps we could... Is she saying that her nation wouldn't be destroyed if she was able to go back to that moment? I feel faint. I'm really angry at Saber for wishing for such a ridiculous thing. The feeling passes in an instant, though. I probably look like a deer in headlights. Isn't it obvious? Saber's wish is not for herself, and on top of that, she wishes for her own elimination. She exists because she became king by drawing the sacred sword. To pretend that never happened means she simply wouldn't exist. Let's say we use the Holy Grail to grant her wish. Oh yeah, she wouldn't... How would that shake out? Right, because if she gets the wish... Right, she doesn't draw the sword or anything. There goes, like, all her, like, life of heroic deeds and whatnot. That surely means she doesn't qualify as a heroic spirit anymore, but she needs to be a heroic spirit to pay the debt on the wish. Why are there so many paradoxes? Okay, let's say we use the Holy Grail to grant her wish. Ultra would never become king, she would just live in a timeline where she is an ordinary knight. But then, what would happen to the Saber I know? Even if it's only temporary, she already exists as a heroic spirit, and if her wish is granted, she will continue on, but as a being meant only for fighting. She's already paid the price for obtaining the Holy Grail, so the Saber I know will continue existing, even if Ultra never becomes king. She'll be cut off from the past and future. She'll always and only ever be the lonely knight dying on that blood-soaked hill. Changes the time don't affect heroic spirits? What? That's idiotic. I won't allow it. There's no hope of salvation there. Even if she was able to do it all over, and there really was a better king, and her nation did manage to last long, and if she herself was saved. It'd all be lies. Even if it made everyone around her happy, I can't just let her, the past 10 years she fought through, be a lie. No, you can't do that. You can't redo things. It wouldn't mean anything if you did, Saber. Don't use the Holy Grail for something like that. You don't in the Holy Grail because you fight for it. You should use that miracle for yourself. But I have said, I'll be using it for myself. I, Ultra, must fulfill her duty as king. How does she not understand? You've already done more than your duty. You've done so much already. You didn't give up even when you were feared or even when you were betrayed. You held on to your sword until the end on that hill. So why? Why do you have to keep such promises even after you die? Saber looks bewildered. Too late to regret what I said. I shouldn't have just blurted out that I've been dreaming of Saber's past. A heavy silence hangs between us. See, no, Saber, it's not that I've been, reading your memory, dream, mind things. It's that I'm just like a super nerd as it pertains to Arthurian legend. Yeah. It's public domain. I can learn it. I can't think what to say. Even I can tell speaking up will just make things worse right now. But I just can't keep quiet. Saber, I don't like it when people aren't rewarded for their hard work. It's wrong. It's not fair. I get that it's childish, but I want to believe that humans can find happiness if they really work for it. I'm going to lose to the other master. Or I'm not going to lose to the other masters. I'm claiming the Holy Grail, no question. That's why I want you to make your own wish. That way I'll actually find some meaning in this stupid war. That's the conclusion I reached. I don't know what the Holy Grail is, nor do I know if it's even something you should try to obtain. But if it could save Saber, even a little, then I'll go all out for her. Well, that sounded bad. The sound of heavy bells rings out, and the house suddenly goes dark. The air changes immediately. The lights go out, but Saber, Tosaka, and I don't say a word. We try to gauge our surroundings with our other senses. The loud ringing stops, and the living room goes silent. And yet, a soft rustling ripples through the house. Is that alarm this house's battlefield? I nod in silence. It's the same sound as when Lancer broke in. Then that can only mean